I guess you were kind of destined to end up in Nottingham, weren't you? With your dad playing here.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how it all goes in a big circle. My dad's first year in Europe was in Nottingham. Mine professionally was in Nottingham. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, really.
Because do you remember, did you ever come to Nottingham when you were a kid?
I did, yes, for
So you remember the old rink then?
No, my first time here, I was 9 years old, and I think it was brand new arena. When was the arena?
Must be 2000 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I think it was like
first or second year.
April or something 2000. And so we come up for nationals, like what an event. You know, we're under 10s. We're thinking like, oh my God, like this is unbelievable. So that was my first experience in Nottingham. And it was, of course, it's like springtime, sun's out, you're in the town square. I think I was jumping in with the fountains and everything. So yeah, good memories, definitely. Asking my parents back, like, oh, what was your year like in Nottingham? Oh, obviously they loved it and stuff. They're like, oh, it rained every day. And my first 2 years here, it was like, I think it rained like maybe 3 times in that span. And of course this year it's
all rain.
It's looking like all rain. But no, yeah, it's funny.
Because you first started playing in Guildford, didn't you?
Yeah, because my dad finished up in Guildford.
Because his jersey's on the boards there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know we've spoke about it before in like a little radio interview. But
they used to have a nice flag for him in the rafters, and then I don't know, they put it on the boards in recent years, but it's still pretty cool. I remember when he got his jersey retired there. I was a young kid and didn't know too much about hockey then, but just could appreciate the spectacle, and everybody would tell me how good my dad was and had a lot to live up to. So I was just like, okay, well, work hard at it, I guess.
We'll give it a go.
Yeah.
So it's your first memories of like watching him then, is it? Are they your first hockey memories of going to watch your dad play?
Yeah, I would say so. I remember like when I was like 4 or 5 years old, I don't think I did much watching. I was running around with the other kids and occasionally see the odd goal, but I think I remember I would go to the Flames games even after he was retired and stuff when I was involved in the junior program, just to see what it was like and stuff. And obviously he was coaching at the time, so he got I was pretty lucky there. There was a lot of North Americans in that area. They would take some of the Flames would come help us as kids practice, so there was a lot of people to learn off of.
Is there anyone that like stood out, like coming down to teach you, like you were like not awestruck by it, like you from watching them, you were like, oh, I can't believe that guy's here?
A guy I looked up to was Derek DeCoste. He was like, probably when I was like 8 or 9, he was like one of the scoring forwards, and he would come out eventually from time to time. And now, I've kept in touch with him. He works at TPC Sawgrass now. So my parents and brother went out there last year to play around at the stadium course there with the 17th. Cool. But yeah, I remember him. He was always a good player. There was a couple, all the guys that are retired there. Campbell, Paul Thompson, Sparks. Yeah, they're all players I looked up to at a young age, and tried to be like them.
And were you always a forward, or did you ever try defense?
Always a forward. I tried being goalie a couple times in roller hockey, but I was way too impatient. That was another thing. My parents, not only was my dad involved in the ice hockey, he started up a roller hockey business on the side.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of what helped me really develop my skills at a young age, because they were going like, we'd be on the ice maybe twice a week, but I'd be in roller every day, go to local schools and stuff. And Sundays we'd always have like all the schools come in and play like a little tournament. And so they'd need extra goalies from time to time. So like, Brett, hop in. Oh yeah, it looks fun. Halfway through the game, I'd be like, slamming my stick, and I'm not doing this anymore. let me just go out. So from then on, I think it was stick to forward.
So when did you make the move to the States then? I know it was 2004 or 5, but what was that? Do you remember that?
Yeah, very well. So I was just I was getting to the point where it was kind of, if I was going to make a move, that was probably the right time. I was just starting high school in the States. I'd finished my year 9 over here. So it would have been a good transition to go, when a lot of other kids are changing schools. So we looked into, different spots. One of my good buddies, Tom Duggan, he went to Shattuck St. Mary's at the same time. Kind of looked into going there. But, it was a good situation in my hometown of Sault Ste. Marie. It was, a small town. I knew a lot of the kids. I would come back there every summer through golf and, summer skates, and even playing football in the summer leagues. Got to know a lot of the guys, and it was kind of a thing, like, I had the summer to try to make the AAA team, and if I was on the team, then great, I'm staying. If not, we'll have to figure something out. So there was a lot more pressure on me than I thought at the time, and it was one of those summers. At the start, I kind of wasn't a very big kid, but as the summer, it was, I probably grew 4 or 5 inches in 3-month span. And from the start of the summer, they're kind of like, we're not sure, to the end is like, yeah, we want him. so I kind of got lucky from that. But no, it was a good move. I think it was the right time. And I had a lot of fun that year.
And then obviously you went through different various junior teams throughout the years there. I assume from these, because I don't recognise these league names, all the NOJLA, JHL and things like that.
Yeah, so I played... obviously, my first year over there was Bantam AAA. Yep. Then we didn't have a minor midget team, so I went straight to major midget AAA. Of course, that's your OHL draft year. You're 16-year-old, so I had a decent year. Probably looking back, would I have done things a little different? Maybe. That midget league is, you got to put up big numbers to obviously I was trying to be, get drafted as high as possible. I had a good year. Ended up getting rated, I was rated in the top 40 guys in Ontario, and I got drafted in the OHL 41st overall, which, wasn't too bad. And it was for my hometown team, the Sioux Greyhounds. So it was kind of like, okay, there, you got this one path laid out for you. And, my dad played in the OHL. He knew how the road goes. But he was always he was curious. He played with guys like Adam Oates is a good example.
The former Capitals coach.
Yep. Yeah. He so he played college hockey back when it wasn't really that popular. And, they were both playing, I think it was in the American League. And he had his education, everything, and my dad's like, I didn't even know that avenue existed. So it was kind of always like, he was like, make sure you take time to consider your options. Don't just go to the OHL because everybody wants you to. Do what you want to do. So there was kind of this period after I got drafted, I didn't sign with the team right away because that would have gave up my college eligibility. So we kind of took our time. I played for the Tier 2 team, which was the Sioux Thunderbirds in the NOJHL, which was a good fit too. As a younger guy, I could get a lot more ice time and keep my college eligibility, obviously. And I think as soon as I did that and I didn't sign the OHL, then I started getting some college offers and kind of went looking like, okay, yeah, this is good. I might be able to go this other path as well.
And then when you're in the NOJHL, you have quite a teammate now he's a NHL stalwart in Jake Muzzin. Do you remember back then knowing that he was so good? Yeah,
so
can you tell that early?
He was a top pick. He got drafted the year before me to the Greyhounds. I remember watching the draft and hearing him, like, they just built the new rink and he was excited about coming to the Sioux with the new rink. And he had a pretty bad back injury. And I don't think he played at all his 16-year-old year. So coming in as a 17-year-old for him, he was kind of like, it was almost like a rehab stint. He played with us for the Thunderbirds. I remember specifically when we went to Winnipeg for this one showcase tournament, and he was with us and obviously really helped our team. But yeah, you could tell from then on, he was, size, could skate, was mean, like, oh, this guy's going to be a player. And then, yeah, he kept at it. He had a really good overage year with the Greyhounds, and then from then on just took off.
And then you finished playing in those junior leagues, then you go to the NCAA.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have how many colleges were like recruiting you at that time?
Because
Michigan State's a pretty big. That's a name that holds weight. Michigan State.
Yeah. There was. They actually. While I was getting recruited by them, they won the national championship. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is
an easy sell.
This is a big school. But I remember my first sort of experience with it was after my first year with the Thunderbirds. I went to this tournament. And actually reunited with my buddy Tom Duggan. He was playing at Shattuck. They had this. Everybody has these summer teams. They were called. It was like Minnesota Selects.
Okay.
And we went to this thing called the Chowder Cup in Boston, and basically it's a lot of like college exposure, blah blah blah. So we went there. There's a lot of schools in that area. You got your Providence, BU, BC. So we went and took a couple look at some schools there. So the first school, really, I remember we were talking, it was at the under-17s for Team Ontario, which leads into Team Canada, blah, blah, blah. And my parents, it was down in Toronto, my parents drove down with me. And in the stands, like, you could see all the OHL scouts, like, oh yeah, we got this guy, blah, blah, blah. And then on his own was, just another guy. They're like, oh, how come you're sitting by yourself? And he's like, these guys, he was a college guy. Then it turned out to be David Quinn. He was with Boston University.
Oh, the Rangers coach.
Yep.
The one I was just talking.
Yep, exactly.
Like I say, small world.
Yeah, exactly. So they were saying like, oh yeah, I was like, okay, we've got this guy here. He's coming into BU. I'm like, oh yeah, like, is your son interested? It's like, yeah, well, he could be. And then so we kind of kept tabs on that. And then I was like, Boston, it's kind of far. Like, isn't there any schools that are closer than that? And then Michigan State popped up, and we're like, yeah, let's go. Like, we went on a visit. It was a 4-hour drive from my hometown in the Sioux, just across the border, straight down, easy drive. So they had me in for.
Told you it happened.
Of course it would be. They had me in for an unofficial visit, which is basically, I just come in, like, I think me and my mom went. They show me around, blah, blah, blah. Whereas an official visit, you actually stay there.
Oh, okay.
Which I would do, I think a year and a half later. But this time, we just drove up, watched the game. They happened to be playing the University of Michigan. Of course, biggest rivalry game that you could have. And it was so different from any other hockey I was used to, because they sat us strategically right beside the band. So there's a big section, kind of like, imagine like Block 19 full.
Oh, wow.
Drummers, everything. And they're cheering like crazy because it's against Michigan. And Michigan's got their little section too. So I'd never really seen that kind of, and there's all students. So they're loud and, they got these,
rowdy.
Yeah, they are rowdy. And the game ended up being like 7-6. And it was just like back and forth, like, Michigan State had a good team at the time. Michigan had a good team, Jack Johnson and Cogliano, and Michigan State had Abdelkader and all these guys. So I was like, wow, this is something I could get used to. And then so they brought me down in the dressing room, showed me their setup, like a college setup, like especially at a school like Michigan State is so much. They put the money into it. Like, you know, we've got this dressing room, like, you know, we just had our pros donate to this. We've got a new cold tub, a workout facility. Like, these guys get treated like kings. So I went back from after that trip and was like, okay, yeah, I'm like 90% sure I want to go there. And so I played the year out. We kept in touch. You know, the coaches would come down, watch my progression and stuff. And by the following May is when the next OHL draft came up. So then the Greyhounds, who had my rights, they wanted me to make a decision. Like, okay, are you gonna, like, which way are you going? Because we need to.
Yeah, they need to know whether they need to, because they're
draft
limited.
Forward or yeah, exactly. So I had to sit down with my family. Tough decision, obviously, because it's, you know, it's your hometown and stuff. But at the end of the day, we thought the college route was better for me, and stuck to it.
What degree did you do when you were there?
So I started in business, and then it was too much of a workload. That especially early on when I wasn't, I'm trying to get it in the team as much as I can and stuff. So I ended up switched to psychology, just something I found interesting, and still interested. Still read a lot of books about it. So.
That's pretty cool. So your first year in the NCAA, you had a couple of teammates who names ring familiar bells. One's Jeff Petrie, and the other one's, was it Paul Crowder?
Yeah.
Was it Tim?
I
think it was Tim.
Yeah. So
going up against him, like even last year, he must have been quite cool to like go up against him again.
Yeah, it was. There's been a few guys, Andrew Rowe, Jeff Lerg, that I've played against from Michigan State, and it's always good. You have that bond. That Timmy was he was a senior when I was a freshman, so he kind of took care of me and showed me the ropes a little bit. So you always remember that, and that always goes down well.
And then the second year, you're playing alongside Torrey Krug, who I don't know how many years he lasted in the NCAA. But when he eventually went up to Boston, he was like a bit of a phenom in the playoffs kind of thing. So and it's the same question as with like Jake Muzzin. Like, could you tell that he was like next level kind of thing?
Yeah. So I played with Torrey 3 years actually. Like, so his he came in the year after me, and he left his junior year after his junior year. And it was just like I remember the first time skating with him. His little defenseman. You're like. What's so special about him? And he just had this like passion. He wouldn't never give up on pucks. He's feisty. Like, didn't look like the best skater or anything, but he got it done. And in games, I'll always remember. The bigger the game, whenever we played Michigan, the passion really came out for him. And I remember I think it was my senior year. He got a hat trick, and I think I assisted on all three of them. It might have been the easiest 3 assists I've ever got, just laying them for him, and he's putting slap shots in the top shelf. But no, it's really, he's a testament to an undrafted player, working hard, working through. A lot of people probably wrote him off early, stuck with it, went into the NHL. Didn't the thing I will say about him is he doesn't shy away from anybody. I remember it might have been his first day in Boston. He's paired with Chara, and you can see already he's like, Chara's telling him this. He's like, oh no, dude,
you do this.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, it's great to see him doing so well now, and it's cool story for sure. So
is it the games against Michigan that stand out to you from your time at Michigan State, or is there any other games that particularly stand in the memory?
Yeah, obviously for me, my real breakout at Michigan State was my sophomore year at the Great Lakes Invitational, which was a tournament we had every year, kind of like the Challenge Cup, I guess. It's a trophy, but it's just a one-off tournament, semifinal, final. So it'd always be us, Michigan Tech, and then an invite. So this year we played, or that particular year we played RPI in the. No, we played Michigan Tech in the semis. And I hadn't been. I think I'd played 2 games in my up till then, and this is like around Christmas time, so I was like hungry to get in. There was one of the other guys had an injury, so I was getting in, and I was on the 4th line, wasn't getting much minutes, and we ended up beating Michigan Tech. I think it was 10-1.
Oh wow!
And I had 4 or 5 points, like 2 goals right off a hop, and I was buzzing. So then we played the early game. So then we all stayed and watched Michigan versus Michigan Tech to see who we'd play. And this was at Joe Louis Arena, and it's kind of set up like playoff weekend where everybody has their sections. So that was pretty cool to play there too. So Michigan was playing RPI, sorry. And they had, obviously they both had pretty good teams. And RPI beat them somehow. I was like, oh, geez, we really got a shot here at winning this. So yeah, next day I played RPI. And I think I had another, 2 goals, 1 assist. We won the final 6-1. And so it was a big victory for our team. And not only that, is for me personally, I got named MVP of the tournament.
Oh, okay.
And so that was kind of like, I go from not really playing to, winning this MVP of the tournament. And, the names on that trophy I've got at home are pretty cool, like Sean Horkov, and a lot of college greats have won that. So I was really proud of that. Another one that sticks out is obviously against Michigan, but the Big Chill, the outdoor game. It was 113,000.
Wow.
Playing at Michigan Stadium. Yeah.
Is that the big house?
The big house, yeah. So that was electric. The result didn't go that great, but there were so many memories. I remember when we were standing on the blue line for the national anthem, they timed it perfectly. One of those stealth jets flies straight over. It was like the coolest thing ever.
That's one of the things you never forget, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And just the roar of the crowd. It was so much different to playing in an arena. It was really cool.
And then in your second year at Michigan State, or after the second year, you did get drafted by the Anaheim Ducks. What was that experience like? Yeah,
so that kind of came out of the blue. Obviously, after that tournament, basically kind of jump-started my year. And I had, I remember playing, I was on a line with Trevor Nill and Dean Chelios. And they called us the bloodline because we all had, our dads had connections to the NHL. And we ended up doing really well for the next, I think we had about 20 games left. We all had double-digit points and stuff, and ended up with decent numbers at the end of the season. And I didn't think anything of it. Going into June, of course, the draft's on and stuff, and we went golfing across. So we live on a border town, Canada and the States. A lot of good golf courses in the States. So, naturally we're going over to golf. I think it was it must have been a Friday or Saturday, and we have this is the time we all had Canadian cell phones, didn't have reception in the U.S. So we get done the round, and somehow the phone picks up a signal. It was a text message from my friend Marcus Policicio, and he said, "Congratulations to Brett." This was on, I think, my brother's slide phone. "Congratulations to Brett. That's so awesome." And we're like, "What is he talking about?" And so we're like, we use the phone in the pro shop to call him, I think. And he's like, "Yeah, didn't you hear you got drafted?" We're like, "What?" So, and then we ended up calling my agent, And he's like, yeah, like, been trying to get a hold of you for like a couple of hours. Yeah, Anaheim's picked him. So I remember going to the Pro Shop computer and typing it in and seeing my name there. Yeah, Brett Perlini, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, we get back across the river and
then your phone starts going mental.
Yeah, phone starts going mental. Anaheim's like right in touch with me and stuff, and all my buddies, and yeah, I just remember that drive being like, yeah, that's really cool. Like it hit me. It wasn't expected. So yeah, that was a fond memory.
So when you finish your college career at Michigan State, is Bakersfield, were they affiliated with Anaheim at the time, or did they lapse your rights or something?
No. So it was kind of weird how it worked out. Like I had a really good junior year, and I kind of thought like, maybe they might want me to sign now, like, which is something they do with a lot of college guys. But no, they said hold off, play your senior year. So I did. Went out, had pretty good numbers. Not as many goals, but same amount of points.
More points.
Yeah, more points.
One more point.
One more point with. And I feel like I didn't have the support as well. The year before, I was playing with Derek Grant, who's playing in the NHL now. And I think the year after it was kind of more of a younger squad. So I thought I did really well, and their assistant GM was in touch with me a lot. Always positive. And then, it came time at the end of the season, and they're like talking to my agent, and it was like, yeah, they're not going to sign you for right now. And I was like, oh, that kind of was a tough blow to take, really. I had to go through that whole summer, and basically they hold my rights until I think it was like August 15th, and then they can prolong it. And so I never really I wasn't able to sign with any other team. I kind of had to.
You just had to wait in limbo. Kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So ended up, and this on top of that, it was the NHL lockout. So
everyone goes down.
Yeah. So, I think that had to do with like otherwise, they might have said, okay, we'll sign you to, NHL or American League deal and play in our system for a year or two, see how you do. But no, it was so tight. I remember I ended up just going to their American League camp, which was basically like an NHL camp because everybody, aside from Getzlaff and Perry, and these guys like Patrick Maroon, Paul Mary were at the camp, and it was like, okay, yeah, I did well and stuff, but it's just a numbers game and stuff.
And name value counts, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So from there, their affiliate at the time was Fort Wayne, who, I was talking to my agent and stuff, and they're like, well, if don't want to sign you, like, there's no use playing in their system. Like, let's just go. Bakersfield was independent at the time. Start there. You'll get a lot of ice time. Rack up the points, and then we'll get you back up in no time. So I went out there. Started really well. I was actually playing with Levi Nelson.
Yeah, he's on my list.
I thought you might have. Yeah,
I know you're going to tell me he's a great guy.
You know what? He was one of my good friends on that team.
He's one of those, if he's on your team, you love him. If you're playing against him, everyone hates him.
And when I played with him, he wasn't like too feisty or anything. Like I was surprised when I come over here and everybody hated him.
I think it's the orange that does it.
Yeah, maybe.
It brings it out of them.
Yeah. But yeah, I played with him. David Taves, Jonathan's brother, was another guy on that team. And 7 games in, I had a decent amount of points. Was feeling good. Ended up breaking my jaw.
Oh,
it was miserable.
Was that in a game or in training?
In a game, I'm driving the net. I'm taking it wide. Defenseman hits me. I think, elbow to the face. Then I run into the net. Kind of so dazed. I had a concussion on the play too.
Jeez.
Stayed out that shift, and I'm like, woof. Like, what is going on? After the game, I'm like, okay, something's wrong. Like, went for an X-ray, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna have to wire it shut. 6 weeks minimum. I'm like, oh geez, I'm out in California, 4,000 miles from my family. Like what am I doing? And then so that was a tough time. I think I ended up missing 33 games over like 3 months. I probably lost 15 pounds of weight. Just can't really eat anything.
But it's the straw and stuff, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, straw, sneaking pieces of chicken. And then, so coming off of that, it took me a while to get back into it. And I remember Anaheim they sent a scout out to our practices sometime, and I started skating with a cage and stuff, but I still had my mouth wired shut. And they was like, what? We were all kind of confused, and I think it was just they just wanted to track my progress because the lockout was almost ending, and I think had it ended when I was back playing, I might have been able to jump right up to the American League team again, but it took longer than we thought. Like I was really getting headaches and stuff, and once the wires came out, then it was like, okay, yeah, well, that's not digging into my brain anymore. So then I was able to get back on the ice, and then I had a good finish to that season. Did well in the last like 20 games or so, and ended up getting called up at the end of the season, but not to Anaheim's, to Colorado's team, which was in Cleveland. It was Lake Erie Monsters, and had a good experience with them. Went a month there, got a few games in, got to play in Ricoh Coliseum against the Marlies, which was pretty cool. My dad's name is up there too.
That's awesome.
Because they put every Leaf that played in their minor league system and then got called up, their name goes on the wall there. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. So it's funny how it works out, really. And
do you remember like people that remember certain things? Like, do you remember your first professional goal for Bakersfield?
I do, yeah. It was in San Francisco, and the rink was called the Cow Palace. I think the Sharks used to play there back in the early '90s. I think it was Levi might have had the assist on it, actually. I think I was around the net and I just batted it in. It wasn't anything pretty or anything, but yeah, I still got the puck in that. And what a memorable! You had to go down the stairs onto the ice from the locker room. So, and of course, it was built for, I think, bull riding. So you had the arena, NHL size pad. Then there was like way more space on the ground level, where the seats, you couldn't really see anything. Then the stands started going up. So it was kind of like a weird arena to play in, but it was pretty cool.
Those are the ones you almost remember more, aren't they? Because they're such a unique experience.
Exactly.
Like every new guy I speak to about Manchester. I always love those interviews after the first visit to Manchester.
Oh, yeah. I like when we first show up there. You really have to play here? Yes, guys, yes. It's not as bad as it seems.
To get on the rink, it's all the same.
Yeah.
And then you didn't stay with Bakersfield. You went to Greenville the next year. What led to that? Did you want to stay in Bakersfield, or did you want a different challenge?
Well, it was kind of, for me, like, I was out there, I didn't have a car. It wasn't. My parents couldn't really come out and see me that well. I wanted to be somewhere closer, not only closer to home, but I felt more teams, especially in the American League, were in that kind of Midwest area.
Okay.
So, and for me, I wanted to get a car, have a little more independence. So we kind of tried to work on, getting me to a team on that side. It took forever. I went to Chicago Wolves training camp, and they were, I think they were affiliated with Kalamazoo. And so I was talking to the coach there, like, oh, can we get something done? And they're like, well, we're working. It's like, it's not easy to try and get, because Bakersfield had my rights, and they wanted me to come back. In hindsight, they had a decent team. It would have been a good move, but for me personally at the time, it just didn't seem to fit. So we got to Greenville, and that was another memorable one. They had a good setup and everything, but the coach there
they got
was
the best team name, the Swamp Rabbits.
yeah. They were the Road Warriors. Now they're the Swamp Rabbits. It's like, oh man. But I'm sure you could ask every guy that played on that team, and they'll tell you a crazy story about the coach there. He was one of a kind. Like, before every game, he would have a huge whiteboard full of systems. Not only that, he would have like the main one, a left, a right, and he'd bring like 2 more other coaching boards. And I'm like, what is this? Are we supposed to know all this? The guys were like, yeah, he's going to quiz you on it. And so I remember one time he called me into a meeting, asked me a question, and I didn't know, like I didn't look at that. And he's like, look at the effing board, like that's a joke. And I was like, oh, this guy is crazy. And I remember it was my first practice with them, and he's asking me like, oh, you've been skating a lot, you shooting a lot of pucks. Yeah. I usually do in the summer and stuff. And he had me shoot like 300 pucks at the end of practice. My arms were about to fall off. And then we're doing like bag skates back and like most intense guy. And it was just like, yeah, I'll put in the effort and stuff, but reward me as well at the same time. Like, I'm doing all this and still getting, wasn't getting much ice time. We had a good team. We had a veteran team. And it seemed like whenever I worked my way up to the first line, we would always, have a guy sent down from the American League or make a trade, and it just didn't work out too well. So we ended up working on a deal to get to Toledo.
Was that you being traded there?
Yes.
So that must be a unique experience in itself.
Mm-hmm. It is. It was a crazy story getting there too, because the night the deal went down, I felt I think it was like a Sunday after one of the games. A couple of boys went out for some drinks after, and I might have had 1 or 2, and I felt a big cramp in my stomach, and it was not a usual thing. I'm like, oh, this isn't right. Like, I've got to get a cab home. So I'm walking, and like I can't even stand up straight. It's just killing me. And so I get home, try and sleep it off. A couple hours go by, and I had to wake up my roommate. I'm like, there's something wrong. Like, my stomach's like, I'm going into pain. So we ended up calling one of the boosters, just one of the fans that like supported the club. Like I need a ride to the hospital. Like, something's going on. They're like, okay. This guy took me in. They're like, yeah, your appendix is like ready to burst.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh shit. Like, so then we did surgery right then. Took I was there all night. I think they did it in the early hours of the morning. Took my appendix out. I'm like, this stuff, you can't write this stuff. Like, so I tell Toledo, and they're like, oh, like, did the coach know you had your appendix? I'm like, no, it was just coincidence and stuff. So getting there, obviously I couldn't start right away. I had to wait like a couple weeks while I was in rehab for a bit there. So that one kind of, Toledo wasn't doing too well at the time, but they were with, they had a good organization. They were with Detroit and Chicago at the time.
That's pretty cool.
So they had, affiliates from both. So they had a lot of talent there. And that was one place I really enjoyed playing.
So was there never a discussion of you staying in Toledo then?
Yep. So at the end of that year, they wanted to make it, because they had so many guys going up and down and stuff. They wanted to stick with one affiliate team, and that was they wanted Detroit. Obviously, it's close, only an hour away. So they kind of like revamped the whole team. So they didn't have as many guys from Chicago, so they could sign some veteran guys. And no, they wanted me to stay. I talked to them in June. They're like, oh, yeah, we want you back. Then I think late July, my agent called and like, yeah, like they're just not going to be able to keep up like what they promised you. Like you're not going to get the big minutes that they thought because they signed a lot of other guys. And I was like, yeah, no problem. Like so then we ended up signing with Indy, who was the new team. That was Chicago's affiliate.
Okay.
So it kind of worked out. It wasn't too much further away. It was like no big deal. Okay. Blah blah blah. So go to Rockford's training camp. Chicago's American League affiliate. Have a good camp there too. Paul Swindlehurst was there.
That would have been the year before he came to Nottingham. I think when he came out of that, he ended up here for a brief stretch of time.
Yeah, he because he got the tryout with the Blackhawks. He went to the rookie camp and stuff, and I remember hearing about that, and I was like, oh yeah, make sure to get to know him at camp and stuff. And yeah, he did well. Yeah, we both did pretty well there. Again, it's like, you know, it's so tough to make one of those teams on a tryout. You've really got to be signed.
Especially because people's careers are on the line on people they've drafted, so they're always going to give them the extra chance to a tryout
Exactly.
person.
So most of the time, you're just trying to make a good impression. So if somebody gets hurt, you'll be the first call up and stuff, which I really thought I did. And so went down to Indy, brand new organization. It was kind of like they were getting a feeler of how things were run in that league. The coach hadn't coached in that league before. It was kind of a mess, really, like, which is unfortunate because it's such a good city, and you know, a decent little rink. We played at the state fairgrounds, where the old junior team used to play. Held about 4,000, but it was loud in there.
Okay.
I think the first game we had, which was against Fort Wayne that year, we had the Blackhawks. You ever see the Blackhawks anthem singer?
No, I can't say there are certain ones I can name, like Toronto, New York, Boston.
Well, so the Blackhawks one, especially in the playoffs, everybody stands up and cheers while he's doing the anthem, which is so bizarre because obviously everybody else is silent. But that's one of the things, and they try and get it so loud that it's just like it's crazy. And so he come and sang the national anthem at the first Indy game. So I thought that was really cool. The crowd like all went crazy. I'm like, oh yeah, this is like electric atmosphere and stuff. And as the season went on, like the team just didn't, we started losing and they started getting rid of guys. And the coach called me in the office one day. He was like, yeah, we're gonna have to let you go. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't see it coming again. And then so I remember talking to my agent. He's like, yeah, just go home for a couple days. We'll find you something soon. And it's funny because Fort Wayne was one of the team's biggest rivals at the time. And they were the first, the coach called me, and he's like, yeah, I couldn't believe they let you go. We got to get you, let's get you down here immediately. We'll get you with the team and stuff. And of course, I think we played Indy like 10 more times after that. So it was like every time we played them, I was like, oh, this is payback. Not only that, we had an outdoor game against Toledo.
Okay.
So not only was Fort Wayne big rivals with Indy because of the proximity, but Toledo was having a good year and Fort Wayne was having a good year. So they were both, so that kind of rivalry sparked, and it was kind of like, okay, this team didn't want me, that team didn't want me, like I'm going to stick it to them like every chance I get. So we played this outdoor game against Toledo, and it was in a baseball field, like a AAA park. It wasn't nothing compared to the Big Chill, but remember the first day we were supposed to play it got rained out. It was too wet, couldn't see anything. The next day we had to play, like there was no getting around it. Snow had come down. You could barely like see the puck. Like you would just flip it and it would just stop dead. We're like, okay, like this is how this game's gonna be. We're just gonna have to do it. But then halfway through the game, they had the shovels on the ice in between. Like the Zam would go and then there'd be snowfall again, so they'd shovel it. And then probably halfway through the game, the snow stopped, and it turned out to be a really good second half of the game.
Oh, okay.
So I remember, I think I scored the go-ahead goal late in the third, and there was one of my, I think it might have been my first goal for Fort Wayne. But yeah, there was a big celly on that one, a lot of emotion in that. I was like, yeah. And we ended up winning the game in a shootout, so that was pretty cool. And then from then on, it was kind of always that rivalry, especially with Toledo. I think we got them in playoffs a couple times too, and yeah, it was good.
I'd say that year was the first year you got to experience. When you went to Fort Wayne, was the first time you got to experience postseason.
Yeah, exactly. I was a good team. I forget who we played that first year.
Because you must have made it through the first 2 rounds at least. No, first one. 9 games.
Yeah, I think we lost we won the first round, and we lost the second round to Toledo.
Oh, okay.
And of course we were the top 2 teams in the league, like not even in the conference. So it was kind of like that could have been the final.
What was that the year when Nashville and Winnipeg met each other in the
it's just unfortunate the way the bracket goes. So then the year after that, I think they changed all the way the conferences were. So
you have more rivalries later on, kind of thing.
Yeah, we would still play Toledo quite a bit, but they were in the other conference. So we're like, okay, if we're gonna meet them, it's gonna be in the finals now. So then that year, my second year at Fort Wayne, I think we had the best team. Like that was the team. We should have went all the way. We the first round I think we won in 6 games. Might have been against Kalamazoo. And then we played Utah in the second round. Swept them, and we're okay. Like, we're on a roll here. Like, and then we ended up playing Allen in the third round, and they had won it the year before. And looking at their team, they didn't have a better team than us. Like on paper, we should have handled them, but they played. They had a couple like crazy guys that would go out try and intimidate you and stuff. Kind of some warm up brawls, and it was just like an ugly series. And the turning point in that series was we were on the road. I think we played the first 2 at home. We had home ice advantage, but because they were so far, it went 2, then 3 at their place, then 2 more if we needed.
Is that how they used to do it in the NBA at one point?
Yeah, I think so. So I think we went into game 4, and we were down 2-1 in the series, and we were up, I think 5-1 in the game. They come back and win 6-5, and it was just like one of those things. Like, you're like, oh, okay, well, this is. So then they go, instead of the series being tied 2-2, it's 3-1 for them, and then you got to win 3 straight games, and it's just, I think we lost the next game by 1, and it was like, oh, that was a wasted opportunity. But no, it's all good experiences.
And then it's from Fort Wayne to Rapid City.
Mm-hmm.
After 2 years in Fort Wayne, well, obviously, by the way you talk about it, you can tell you really enjoyed being in Fort Wayne.
Really enjoyed it. Didn't want to leave. We got a call in the summer from the coach. and I thought it was, we'll talk about re-signing and stuff, because it was just, you're on 1-year deals at the time. And he's like, oh, yeah, I got some bad news. Like, because they do what's called futures trades
Okay.
in that league. So we traded for a guy. We were short of guys at the time. I think he played maybe 10, 15 games for us. And then it wasn't a helpful trade. Like, we didn't need to do it. But what they get in exchange is a player kind of off a list whenever they want.
Okay.
And they're like, well, Rapid City want you. I'm like, oh, jeez. Like, okay.
Why?
So I was honestly, at that point in time, I was looking at some places in Europe. I was like, I don't really know if I want to go there. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. And so we ended up, they were actually affiliated with the Coyotes at the time, my brother was obviously drafted and playing there. That would have been his first year pro. So we ended up, I ended up getting an invite to their affiliate Tucson, which was a brand new team, the Coyotes affiliate, their camp. And so my brother was with the Coyotes, and I get to Tucson, and I find out, like, even worse news, that he gets sent down to Tucson. And so I was like, oh, that, it really sucked. Like, I thought, this would be his year to make the NHL. But then, like, the cool thing was we got to be at camp at the same time. Like, we had never played together before. So that was pretty cool. We got to spend probably like a week together in the same team, practicing and playing and stuff. And again, they had a decent team. So we went back to Rapid City. Tried to make the best of it, of the situation, and it was kind of familiar to Indy, whereas the team just wasn't doing that well. Whatever trades they made, like, didn't really work and stuff. And then I was kind of working through it, and I finally, like, started to get going. And I was on a bit of a hot streak, and then I got traded. Coach calls me in the office, like, yeah, you've been traded to Wichita. I'm like, oh God, like, another place, like, I didn't know too much about, kind of in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, geez, like, so I get in my truck. I've got to drive like 9 hours to Wichita. And as soon as I get there, I'm like, I'm really thinking about Europe at this time.
You got 9 hours to think about it.
I'm so sick of this, like, going from team to team. Not much security and stuff. So we almost pulled the trigger on that, but I just knew I wasn't going to stick it out in Wichita. Like, one game, and then their team was struggling too. They needed scoring. That's all right. The guy really wanted me, and he sounded excited, and I respected the coach there and stuff. But I was like, look, this isn't for me. You got to get me out of here. Get me to Fort Wayne. Like, so I called the coach. They worked out a deal. Got me back to Fort Wayne, and I was really excited to be back somewhere familiar.
Where you wanted to be as well.
Exactly, where I wanted to be from day one of that year. So again, another good team. We had a good playoff push, and a lot of those guys I still keep in touch with.
You still play against one of them.
Who's that?
Mike Cazzola.
Yeah, he's it's fun playing against Kaz. He had a really good year that year. Too. He, I think that was his rookie season in pro.
Oh wow!
And put up big numbers. And it's fun to play against him over in Fife. Yeah, for sure.